The Sportsocracy.
It is A+ mock draft day here at the Sportsocracy. NFC North teams. We've already done the Chicago Bears. We got the Green Bay Packers in the books as well. The team that, to me, is one of the most interesting, has been this offseason and will be looking forward into this next year, is the Minnesota Vikings. The team that won 13 games last year and then decided, that quarterback that helped us win 13 games, we don't want him anymore. We're going to let him
how did
just
we
walk
end up
right
with
out the door.
Minnesota in the biggest segment, too? Longest segment for a team with 5 picks. Their whole draft board's on the back of an index card.
Yeah, but it's so pivotal.
Is it, though?
I mean, I feel like it is.
I feel like Minnesota
like
might
if
be
you
the
come
most
out and
straightforward team in the league.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Okay, what are your needs for Minnesota? You can't see my board, so you have no idea what I said here.
I don't. Minnesota, I would definitely go with a safety. I've had Malachi Starks go into them in my mock drafts for ages now.
I'm not going to tell you if you got the right player, but I'll tell you got the right position. That was 101 for me.
Yeah. Corner is a big one.
That's the second pick in their mock.
And I would say probably a defensive tackle.
That would be the fourth pick in their mock. You only skipped one.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Let me guess. Oh, you like giving them a running back.
Sure do.
You like the backup plan for Aaron Jones.
Sure do. Bingo. You remember that thing I said a minute ago about this is the most straightforward team in the draft?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was talking about. They have 4 picks. They're at a spot that you can't really trade out of if you want to get one of the high-level safety. Unless you're going to take a risk on Kevin Winston, you can't really bail out. So what do you do?
It'd be a risk. It would be a risk because I've felt like Minnesota is one of those teams that maybe a quarterback needy team is going to be targeting them. Like if a team at the top of the second round, bypassed a quarterback in the first round and really was in love with Jackson Dart, you've got to get ahead of Los Angeles at 26. So Minnesota, to me, is one of those teams that people should be targeting if they're after Jackson Dart.
And I believe they would be. Vegas also believes that, too, because Jackson Dart's over-under right now is 24.5.
Yeah. The
problem is, if you're Minnesota, there's a great chance you're going to have Nick Emanwari and Malachi Starks on the board at 24.
Yep.
They're neither one going to be there at 34.
Nope. If you move back, they are not going to be there.
So what do you do then? All right, that was our biggest need on the board. How are we going to fill it now?
Well, you'd either have to reach or move on to the best corner that's still there.
And see, there falls my problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard for me to look at the biggest need on a board for a team. And anybody that's curious as to why I keep saying that safety is such a big need, let me elaborate. You have 2 right now. Obviously, Harrison Smith, that's been there for 814 years.
Who's 57 years old.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He's, 35?
6.
He's 36.
Yeah, he's 36 years old.
And then you have Josh Metellus that basically plays strong safety. He also plays a lot in the slot. So you really need a third safety. Mm-hmm. You really need one that can play over the top because it's getting harder and harder for Harrison Smith to do that. And if you don't believe me, look at his season grades over the last 6 years. They've gone down every single year -1. You need somebody that can play over the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to believe that you would bypass. So I actually don't have them making a deal. I have them sitting at 24 and taking Malachi Starks.
Yes.
I had not really
given
much credence to that because I didn't think Starks would fall this far until we talked about it at the Combine. It was David Smith that put it in my head. And then from there, I can't stop. Because I don't understand with how you play defense. With what Minnesota does defensively, I don't understand how you do that if you don't have somebody that's going to be over the top. And Metellus, look, I get it. You like him. He had one. He has improved. I'm still not jumping up.
Metellus was the one that played like 7 positions last year, isn't he?
Yes.
He took snaps at defensive end. I think he even took 2 snaps at defensive tackle. They moved him everywhere.
I don't have a breakdown on that. He played 63 on the defensive line, played 512 in the box, 330 at slot corner, 33 out wide, 90 at safety, 101 on kick coverage, 52 on punt return, 65 on field goal coverage.
I think I remember that being one of my favorite graphics from the playoff coverage was the snap breakdown for Josh Metellus.
He does a lot of stuff. But just like Brian Branch with the Detroit Lions, who will be doing next, if you have a player like that, you've got to have somebody that can cover for them when they start doing other stuff.
Malachi Starks is the pick here at number 24, their next selection.
I love Malachi Starks, by the way. We didn't really talk about the prospect that much. I get it. He's not crazy fast. He's a great football player.
Mm-hmm.
Tank, you want to take a stab at where he is overall on the big board?
I will say 16.
You're too high. He's lower than that.
Really?
Yeah.
12?
13.
Ooh.
One spot ahead of Ashton Genty.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was getting ready to say was if you take him at 24, football-wise, you're getting a hell of a deal on a player. And the reason that you would get him here is because non-premium position.
Non-premium position, he also is not like a height, weight, speed monster. We have not had a ton of safeties in the first round over the last few years. This year, I think we're going to have 2.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them probably are in the last 10 picks of the first round.
All right. 97 is the next pick for the Minnesota Vikings because, well, they traded everything away. They have the least capital of anybody in this draft.
By a wide margin. Minnesota plays, I'm not going to say, they don't play more zone than anybody, but they're, I think, the 5th highest clip in the league. That is to their benefit. Because there are a lot more zone corners early.
Mm-hmm.
I said this earlier. There's a lot of zone guys early, a lot of slot guys in the middle, and a lot of man projects at the end. So here with that second total pick at 97 overall, Zy Alexander out of LSU. There are some people that think he's going to have to play safety. I don't agree with that. I think he's good enough of a ball hawk that he can play in a zone-heavy scheme. Last year, what percentage of snaps did the Minnesota Vikings play in man?
Let's go 22.
You're way too high. It was 15.6. That kind of scheme fits nicely for Zy Alexander because I just don't think physically he can hold up. He's thin, and he's much better in a read and react off zone. I would put him probably a full round higher to Minnesota than practically any other team in the league. And he actually winds up about where he is on my board because he's in my top 100, but just barely.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to Minnesota here, which I would say they probably have him in the 60s.
Number 97 overall in the draft here for Zy Alexander. The next one they have is at 139.
You know I like giving them running backs because I feel like they need another one of those. And I get it, you added Jordan Mason. That really just changed who I'm going to lean on bringing into you. You brought this kid in for a top 30 visit. His name is Brashard Smith.
He is going speed demon.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be a weapon in the NFL. Started as a receiver, converted to running back, and in his first year at running back, just, casually ran for 1,300 yards. I love everything he does. To me, Brashard, and I've said this before, but I'll continue saying it, Brashard Smith is what you were sold that Antonio Gibson was. Tank specifically, because I think he still believes it deep down in his heart.
I mean, there's still some talent in there somewhere.
Is there, though? Are you sure? I'm not so sure.
I mean, I loved him at Memphis, and I really believed. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, hopefully, you're right. Hopefully, if Brashard Smith can be what I thought Antonio Gibson was going to be at the next level, he will be a Pro Bowler perennially.
Brashard Smith is a markedly better running back. I think in time he will be a markedly better receiving running back than Antonio Gibson. He may not be as good of a receiver.
And then the 6th round, the final pick, the 4th and final pick. That's why I keep thinking that they're going to make a deal at 24. They can't just have 4 picks in this draft.
You would think not, but I don't know what you do at safety. Now, here's the caveat. If you think Zy Alexander is a safety that you can also play some outside corner with, now we could be talking.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the fact they've talked to Savon Ravel and Jonas Savanea and Carson Schlesinger, Marcus Imbow, Derek Harmon. Those are all guys that have been in the building for top 30 visits that they do not currently have a pick that makes any sense for any of them.
Okay. So number 187.
It's a guy that you know quite well that they've also had in the building for a top 30 visit, Nazir Stackhouse.
Oh, I do like Stack. He is a BDD.
I want you to defend Nazir. We got a minute here because Minnesota obviously doesn't take as long. I want you to defend Nazir Stackhouse as a guy that watches every snap of Georgia football and knows what you're talking about. Because I saw Nazir Stackhouse at like 500 overall on a board the other day, and I laughed until it hurt.
I mean, I can't explain that. To me, he's not going to push. Like he'll pass rush every now and then, but for the most part, he is just going to clog everything up in the middle. And he has, to me, way better talent than that, than being at 500 on somebody's list. To me, he is an NFL defensive tackle. I mean, I want to say he would be really good in a nose roll, but I think he'd probably be better off with somebody beside him on a 4-man front.
All right, so I'm glad you walked down that path.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I think he would be better in a nose roll. What kind of nose roll? So if you're going to play him at zero tech, are there 2 better players in the NFL to be outside at the 5s than Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave?
No.
Exactly. Everybody talks about his run stop rate and his pass rush win rate because they are really, really low.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to do any of those things. He had so much talent around him. All he really was asked to do at Georgia was get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
We need you to be a giant in the middle, and nobody gets by you.
Yep.
And he did a great job of that. And then Mykel Williams and Jalen Walker and everybody else clean up everything back behind him. He was like a garbage man at Georgia. You put him in this scenario with Minnesota, and it makes all the sense in the world to me.
Mm-hmm. I like it. So you only had 4 picks, but you get 2 Bulldogs, so you know that's going to be an A-plus mock draft from me. Malachi Starks, Zy Alexander, Brashard Smith, and Nazir Stackhouse for the Minnesota Vikings.
The Sportsocracy